Good morning, everyone. Take a collective deep breath as we all get settled. Oh yeah, no, he's got it going for it. So we again, as we start, before we get started, again, thank you so much each of us for coming. We're going to do the opening Dharma verses, and then we'll get it kicked off, and we'll do a little bit of a review of how community practice usually works with myself and Shinjin Sensei, and then we'll get it. You good for it?
Surpass profound and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth.
Again, good morning, and thank you so much for showing up here today. We're so excited to have everybody coming in from the retreat and also just locally online. My name is April Jessup. My Dharma name is Fusats, and this is Shinjin Sensei. He's our, can't even say you're new now anymore, but he's been around for a long time, but he's our newly transmitted priest, so he is partnering with us to do the community practice. He doesn't, does he? He's still no hair either. Still.
No hair.
So
Go back.
yeah. So on community practice Sundays, second Sundays, we normally circle up for a conversation. This year we've been concentrating on the paramitas, and the paramitas there are usually the six perfections. It's the patience, it's vigor, it's meditation, it's wisdom, it's gratitude. So we've been going through those. So now, so eloquently, meditation is the one we landed on today. And we've had actually Dale Wright with us last month. He's the guy that actually wrote this book. We've been using the book, The Six Perfections. It's a classic. It's been out there for a long time. It's the Buddhism and the cultivation of character, but it really talks about how the paramitas support us in our precept practice in our day to day. So we've been bringing that forward each month, talking about one of these and talking about with the community how this shows up in day to day practice. That's what community practice is about. It's not about just again, we get a lot of the Dharma, we get a lot of the practice, daily, but how does that really arise in day to day practice? So just so happened on the second Sundays we'll be partnering with the Hojo and Gyoji coming out of Just Sit Saturday, but we really talk about as a community what those things really mean in real time. So Shinjin, let's do just a quick, because we have a lot of people that haven't been with us for the whole year. Can we do just a kind of a review of the paramitas up to this point?
Sure.
And then we'll jump right into meditation. But then this is not like us talking at you. It's a conversation as a community on what this means in actually day-to-day practice. So there is also online up under the teachings, you'll see a page of community practice, that book. And we also used Hojo Sensei. He took a class, I don't know how many years ago. You took that. He writes a lot, and we'll talk more about he gave a class on the paramitas. So we use his writings in a conjunction with the six paramitas, the writings, and there's broken out. We saved the videos, so that can be a reference for you. And I'm leaning back because people are the pillar. That can be kind of a reference for you with your day-to-day practice. But for me, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you get to talk to some people that have been practicing for a long time. If you have questions, if you have that arise in your practice, please throw it out there, because if you're thinking it's probably somebody else in the Sangha is going through the same thing. So you want to kick it off with a review, Shinjin Sensei?
Sure. Six paramitas, and you'll have to forgive my voice. The six paramitas are usually tied to the third noble truth. And as you remember, the third noble truth is the one that states that there is a way out of suffering, that we don't have to live with the suffering that we inflict on ourselves because of our attachments. The word paramita is taken from the Sanskrit, and para means the highest, and mita means action. So these are the actions that we take that take us through some type of transcending, the highest actions we can take. And
para means what?
Para means the highest.
The highest, and mita means what?
Action.
What is action? Action. What's the passion?
No, action.
You can do that with passion, though. You can.
You could do that.
Yeah.
I guess you could. Okay, so as you know, one of the things that we're dealing with as Buddhists is this dualistic notion of an egocentric mindset or a non-egocentric mindset. So the paramitas are intended to take us out of this egocentric mindset, and as we just mentioned, that there are 6 paramitas in Mahayana Buddhism: dana or generosity, sila or morality, patience or endurance, or ksanti, diligence or energy, virya, which we talked about a couple of months ago, concentration or dhyana is what we'll be talking about today, and finally wisdom, which is prajna. And you probably heard the phrase prajna paramita in the last sutra that we chanted. Theravada traditions in Southeast Asia, in Tibet, include 4 more. So they have 10 paramitas, including skillful means, strength, aspiration, and primordial wisdom. And I really can't tell you much about those. I've not studied them. But going straight to the paramita dhyana, or meditation, or jhana, as it's also pronounced in the Sanskrit, or Chan, as it's pronounced in the Chinese, or Zen, as it's pronounced in Japanese. It's interesting because out of all of the paramitas, it's the only one that's described in several phases. And also, I thought it was interesting that it's the only one that's got a direct analog in the Eightfold Path. Remember, one of the Eightfold Path is right meditation. Okay, so it was defined here by Dr. Wright: a full body awareness in which the mind becomes very powerful and still, but is not frozen, and is able to observe and gain insight into the changing flow of experience. Does that sound about right to you guys as far as your experience goes? So consider that for a minute. About 15, maybe 16, 17 years ago, Emory conducted a really large-scale experiment on meditation. And they took a bunch of volunteers from here. And to be a volunteer, you had to have at least 3 years of sitting experience. And you went up, and they connected a bunch of electrodes to you and took readings while you sat. And then they had you do some cognitive tests. Then you came back about a week later, you sat again, and they put you in an MRI. When you came out, did more cognitive tests. And so I'm assuming that their control group were people that had no meditation experience at all. And what they found out after doing this with a few hundred people was that people with an established sitting practice, the bonds between their prefrontal cortex and the rest of their brain were stronger and thicker. And their amygdala was smaller. So that what's happening as you sit and you stick with it, and apparently this change starts at about 6 months and just keeps building as you sit. Your amygdala gets starved, and your prefrontal cortex gets more well connected, integrated with the rest of your brain. Okay, so what does that mean? And we're lucky to have a parapsychiatrist with us today, part of our saga. But the amygdala is what controls your flight or fight response. It's connected to the vagus nerve, which wanders all throughout your internal organs. So it gets these very fast impulses that get translated into the body as these very, very fast emotions. These quick, intense emotions: fear, jealousy, rage, all of those things are coming through the amygdala. Prefrontal cortex is all the higher operations of your brain. So that's where cause and effects lives. That's where ethics and morality are all up in this prefrontal cortex. And you're usually in your early 20s, mid-20s, before your prefrontal cortex starts to integrate with the rest of your brain. This is why teenagers make such stupid decisions.
So what's the excuse for everybody else beyond that?
Well, it doesn't. Not everybody's prefrontal cortex connects. I mean, that's what most of the personality disorders are. People that all of this energy is running through their amygdala. They never get out of this zone of fear and anger. So this is what's happening to your brain as you sit. The brain's very plastic. And sitting is, you keep up with your sitting and have an established practice, it actually changes the structure of your brain. And this changed structure of the brain, you get out in the world, one of the things that it starts to manifest itself is you're starting to stop and think before you act or speak. Okay, so think about, go back to the Eightfold Path. We've got right speech, right action, right thought, right speech, right action. Okay, so if your brain is routing all this stuff through the prefrontal cortex, through all of its higher operations, okay, you've got a much better likelihood of acting right, speaking right, taking other people into account, not flying off the handle. Okay, so that was really interesting to me, how this ties into the actual physiology and function of the brain. But another interesting thing about jhana is it's the only one of the paramitas that's described in phases. You get 4 distinct phases. You've got first jhana, which is called the secluded form, second jhana, which is called the stilled form, third jhana, which fades away, as does pain, and the fourth jhana, abandoned, as is pain.
So the second was distilled, did you say?
Stilled form, stillness.
Stillness.
Yeah. And, one of the ways that I would look at that is those of us that have been here for a really long time, I think we would all agree that our sitting practice has changed. Our sitting practice is different in 5 years than it was a year. I'm on my 27th year, and my sitting practice is really different than it used to be. And I would say, in my own experience, the penny dropped for me at about 7 years. I remember distinctly the first time I sat with 0 intentions, without thinking, I'm going to sit here and not move for 30 minutes. I'm going to sit here and do this, and this is going to happen inside my brain or whatever. It took me 7 years. So your mileage may vary, but that is something to think about. And I'm going through my notes, and these notes are a couple of years old now. But I had copied down something from a very obscure sutra that I'd never heard of before. The Aryappa Riyasana Sutra. I've never heard of it before, no sense. But it says about jhana, it says, this dharma leads not to disenchantment, nor dispassion, nor a succession of suffering, or instilling direct knowledge, or inviting, but only to the reappearance and in the dimension of neither perception or non-perception. So I left. Okay, I have no idea why I wrote that down. And as a matter of fact, if you look at my notebook right after it says, huh?
It really does say, huh?
So
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure what that guy was talking about. But I thought that the quote itself is kind of interesting because, we're being given this directive to put all of this effort into meditation. That's where the word Zen comes from. That is, Satriel said, where the rubber meets the road. That is the teaching that Dogen brought back from China, that enlightenment was this enormous building with lots of windows and doors, but that sitting was the front door. This is the direct method. But as we come across this quote from this weird sutra, that it's kind of a path that doesn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we supposed to make of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and with that, I would like to...
He always does that.
What's that?
So reverse a little bit. Go back to your 4 phases, because that's the thing that I want as folks are coming out of this retreat, and they've done a lot of sitting. And we talked about Virja and effort last time, because it does take a lot of effort to stay on the cushion.
Sure.
And just go through the 4th again, and then just listen to him talk about it and think about how it was when you were sitting looking at the wall and what your body was going through, to see if that resonated with you. And then we'll kind of chat about that, because a lot of the practice, the way Sensei has, developed the practice here is Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Buddha is the Zazen. That's like you said, the entryway. The Dharma is the teaching, and the Sangha is what we do, how we are really interacting with the teachings. But in that, sitting is all of those things, incorporated. But just do the 4, and then we'll bring it back.
Okay, and then there was 4 more items that we'll add to that. So the first jhana, the secluded form. The second jhana, the stilled form. The third jhana fades away, as does pain. The fourth jhana, abandonment, as is pain. And it also listed what were called, this is from the Pali Canon, the 4 formless meditations, which is 1, infinite space, 2, infinite consciousness, 3, nothingness, and 4, the dimension of neither perception or non-perception.
Right.
Your guess is as good as mine on that. So, what would be your guess?
And just with those, see,
Well, what exactly does it mean of these 4 formless meditations? Infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, or the dimension of neither perception or non-perception.
Are you asking?
Yeah, I'm throwing it out on the table. You know, I'm just, I guess the thing, I think, you know, obviously there's a lot of benefit to meditation, or we wouldn't keep showing up here. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have stuck. I look around this room and there's people I've known for over 20 years where we're still at this. So there's got to be some benefit for our lives.
Or we're just really stupid.
Or we're just really stupid.
maybe a little bit of both.
You know?
Yeah, but that's okay. And the other thing is the benefit is not the reason why.
Yeah, yeah. The benefit doesn't have to be your intent. However, that said, you know, this isn't particularly comfortable. It's not particularly fun. And a lot of times not particularly interesting. I mean, how many times have you sat and just had a miserable 25 minutes and just been sitting there on your cushion screaming on the inside and thinking, if that jackass doesn't pay that bill,
Yeah.
I'm going to get up and do it myself. You know, I mean, there are 2 people that either say that doesn't happen to them or they're lying about that doesn't happen.
So true.
You know,
Yeah. We've all had those moments.
we've all had those moments.
Yeah.
You know, all this time, and I still have
Has one right now.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I don't like listening.
But you still keep, yeah. But we all keep coming back. We all keep coming back. So, and the so what? So we all keep coming back. So let me just put it out here again. Just coming out of the retreat weekend. Yeah. What are some of the thoughts and some of the experiences, if you would like to share, please? Because I mean, again, I had told Charlotte Joko Beck, I was telling a couple of the gentlemen earlier that people call sesshin contains suffering. And honestly, but we still keep coming back. So what is it in the practice that arises for you? Why do you keep coming back? What do you know, what are some things that are just kind of, as you heard what it is, what we're doing? Because we're sitting down, we're breathing in and out, our eyes are lowered, and we're releasing our thoughts. That's what we're doing constantly on the cushion. It's not that, you know, when you go to retreat, you tell somebody you're going on a retreat and they're like, oh, you're going to come back all invigorated, and you know, not so. It's work. So what are some of the things that you experience? Because in the end, it's all about what each of us experiences, not what somebody writes about the experience in the book. So,
We have to start calling that down attacks.
oh, is that what that is? Yeah, Zen attacks. Yeah, because you tell people you're going on a retreat and they're thinking you're laying on the lounge by the pool, and you know, you might think that you're there arising, but then you have to let that go. So just again, this is the Sangha conversation part. Like, this is very helpful for people as we're practicing. What are the things that arises in your practice? What are the thoughts about the practice and more? So just yeah. Yes, you can blurt something out.
How about the microphone?
Yeah, so Scott can
Do you
hear you.
have it online?
Yeah. Hit the button on the front for me and it'll turn green. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you for
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, and this is sort of maybe tangential and not directly answering the question, but I've sat for a really long time. I stumbled into the Atlanta Zen Center in Candler Park in probably 1991, for the first time. And then I moved away and sat on my own for a very long time. And then I came back. And when I came back, I lived in New York and I had a number of health problems. And I had been sitting, and my sitting had been I think the way I was approaching it up there was an additional source of stress. And then in a weird way, and I was.
So hold on. You said your sitting was an additional.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
very goal oriented. But
Okay.
after at a certain point, something changed, and when you're talking about the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala and the vagus nerve, I was having serious, like, potentially doctors thought maybe I had cancer, like digestive issues and all of these issues. And when I kind of got out of this goal-based meditation, I started sitting to sit and sort of redirecting. And then when I moved down here and reconnected, a lot of these sort of, I know this sounds sort of mystical and weird, but a lot of these illnesses went away, and I kind of prescribed them to, it's not like I was like, oh, I sat and suddenly I was healed. It was a redirection of how I was processing stress in my life through sitting. And then once that happened, and it took me, again, mind you, this took me only 20 something years to get to this point. But once that happened, something changed, and my practice changed differently than it had changed over the 20 years, which it had. And at times it was probably more beneficial and less beneficial, but it became something that that was a different experience. And this is sort of the first long, I mean, I sit for maybe hours or like an hour or two max when I'm at home, but this is the first sort of long sitting I've done in many, many years. And I had everything from the experience to wanting to get up and ring the bell to myself to falling asleep. And I don't know, I don't really have a point, but I'm just sort of sharing what's happening with me. And I feel like in general, for me, despite the pain in my legs and, you know, the stretching I'm going to have to do to be able to go do my job, it's always at the end what is happening. And when you, again, when the way the amygdala is shrinking and the prefrontal cortex is becoming connected, I think scientifically, when I hear that, it rings the bell for me that that has improved kind of the way I've been dealing with everything in my life. Once again, it only took me 20 something years to get to that flip, but those are some of my experiences.
No, I mean, what? Give me your name.
Jeremy, or
Thanks.
Shusen.
Yes, you said. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And can you speak a little bit more about the shift that you had when you realized you were not doing it for a goal? Did you what changed in that recognition that you noticed? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, without getting like too personal, I had a huge part of it was the pandemic. I had a career that collapsed, and I was sort of forced into taking employment solely for purpose of kind of providing for my family, which I had never done. I'd sort of enjoyed a really great career in the field that I wanted, doing kind of fantastic things for a very long time, and then that changed. And I think I kind of gave up, really. Like, I sort of gave up sort of an attachment to who I was based on my previous career, but then I also gave up on this thing of being like, you know, meditation's going to make me a better person, I think is what I was wanting to be. I think I wanted to be like less of a jerk, and you know, and that was this part of my goal in meditation for all those years was, and in a way it was like, probably more accurately, I wanted to be a better person than you, whoever you be, you know? And so my meditation was sort of like, in retrospect, maybe like flawed, because I was trying to be sort of superior to who I was.
Maybe different instead of flawed.
Yeah, different for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. You can just leave it on the phone. Any other folks have thoughts about that? Was a good example of like meditation coming into it, because we all come here with something. I mean, something brings us to meditation. I mean, for me, it was like my spouse was driving by the center and was just like, "You're stressed. I think you could use some of that." And it was just kind of like, "Oh, maybe I could go over there and get some kind of relief." But we all come to this practice for a reason. I mean, and it's just kind of like whether that reason brings you, it's through the over time you start to kind of, like Jeremy did, he starts to kind of like evaluate, So thank you for that. Is there anyone else that has any thoughts about, like, again, either the wonderful sitting that we had with no pain? Of course, pain's never, but it is, pain is a big part of sitting and stuff that we work with in practice. Is there any thoughts on that? Yeah, please. Yeah, you just go. Yeah, thank you. And just because there's so many new faces, can you just tell me your name first, and then just so for everybody to. Thank you.
So my name is Janice. My Dharma name is Daiishi, meaning great warrior. So I actually, as of September, just completed my first year of a routine, regular meditation practice. I've kind of like read a lot of Buddhist books and studied, but I never wanted to sit. I'm ADHD. It is inherently the most miserable, unnatural thing for me to do, to just sit with my brain quietly and still. So this was my first year, and usually it would go like this. Like, okay, I signed up for, a Zazen Kai. I began to plot my escapes. Like,
I love it.
what can I sign up for that I get to leave early and like go prepare something, or do, like, how can I contribute that gets me off the cushion? But I'm there, it's legit, kind of,
Yeah.
but I minimize this as much as possible. And that's usually how it goes. And then, I sit there and I think people can hear what's going on in my brain. Like, it seems like it's very loud, and I worry about that. Yesterday, I was thinking, how is Abby so still? That's so annoying. Like, I don't even hear her, and then you're sitting next to me. I'm like, oh, good. He's stretching. I've been wanting to stretch for 10 minutes. I'm dying. He's moving around. I'm going to do that. I guess it's okay. And then I started finding that annoying. And then I said, is Abby annoyed by me because I'm moving or breathing hard? Like, I'm like, am I doing anything here? Like, am I sitting? Because my mind has not settled down. And finally, I just reached a point, and I didn't even notice it right away, but I'm like, oh, I'm just here. Like, I'm not thinking about anything. I feel very relaxed. I'm not distracted by noises going on. I barely even noticed it. Like, oh, is this what this is supposed to feel like? Even though I feel like my sitting is disastrous usually, I keep doing it because I'm finding these moments, and it's not like this defining moment, but somewhere in your everyday, there's something changing. Like, oh, wow, I wasn't so reactive to this person or this situation like I normally would be. And now suddenly I'm developing an organic sense of just space between someone that maybe wasn't kind, that maybe was spewing, anger at me. And suddenly I'm realizing it's not about me. All these things aren't about me, and I don't have to take it personal. And I can give these situations some space and just see what happens. And interestingly, everything kind of comes back. So instead of there being this controversy, which I'm used to having with certain types, it kind of just takes care of itself. And it's really interesting, and it's really sort of liberating to suddenly like not make every situation about you, because you only see in the way that you've been conditioned to by your own experiences. So this is my first real like aha moment, and this is why I keep coming. This is why I signed up for a weekend.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Ask them to see if they're logging into the correct link, the Sunday link versus the Friday link. That's the thing. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we have all this is to play. But a lot of times, like again, I love to hear people that are just starting off because it's not, even though the folks that have been sitting forever, will come back and say they still have some of the same similar experiences. So your ADHD and all that, you're not alone. So just know you're very good company. A lot of people that are, that come to meditation have the same experiences. Two, we talked the last month about, well, month before last, about, the vigor that it takes to, even when you're recognizing she's breathing, somebody's loud, maybe somebody farts, maybe somebody burps, you're just kind of stuff all over the place. And then you start to notice that you're not even noticing that. And then you're like, oh, I'm thinking again. And then you're comparing and you're just going back all over the place. So, I mean, it's all a part of the process. But what I think is so critical that you're starting to already identify pretty early on is that non-separation between what you're doing on the cushion and how it relates to like everything else that's going on in your life off the cushion, because it is related, right? And so I'm gonna Sensei Hojo, Shinshin Sensei, did you want to speak anything about? You just interrupt as we're going through. I'm just, is this?
I'd rather hear from somebody.
Yeah, great. They don't want to talk anymore. That's great. So yeah, they'll always interject at the one. But again, these are the things that are so important. I think as we are for the Sangha, as we're going along the way, this is how even when they're in the same room, like you're noticing somebody's upright posture or they're moving. Oh, I can move. I mean, these are things that give yourself permission to take care of yourself while you're on the cushion. So
Give yourself permission to move.
yeah, we're not trying to be statues. We're just trying to work with the mind.
Obvious.
Well, hey, she's going to eventually move too, trust me, right? So, yeah. Yeah. What other thoughts?
Why don't you give some of your thoughts over It's the first long one you've done.
Yeah, it's the first long one. Other times, I think I've done two just sit Saturdays, which are from 9 to 4, but then this was the one that was even longer. Yeah, I think there were times when I would think, like I would calculate, okay, now there are 4 more sittings, so for, for the next 2, I will not get up for Kinhin so that I'll finish this in one go, and then next, so I would do all that, but then somewhere in between that will go away, like that calculative, that part will go away, and I'll just continue. But I think it happens. I don't know. I think I used to have these thoughts of like, oh, I'm thinking or not thinking, but I think the way it has taken care of itself is by, I think at some point I was like, okay, this is mess, and I just gave it up. And I think that helps. Like sometimes when there are too many things going on in mind, I just leave it open, like not because, it's just because I kind of give up because I get annoyed and I'm like, it's not in my control anymore. Let me just see what will happen anyways. I'm just sitting, like, like what bad or what good can happen. Like this is just like, this is the most relaxing it can be, in a sense that I'm just sitting. I'm not actually going and doing anything, like not taking an action or anything. And at max this is 25 minutes or 1 hour, so it's not like my work will or anything will, like, suffer or anything like worse can happen. So I just think that, like, maybe for 1 second and then continue with, like, I think in my experience it just comes very random things, like something from past, something from future, some planning, then suddenly like, oh, is the down like the one about to like ring the gong, or all those things, like it's also jumbled up. But I just feel, and then staring at the window or like whatever is there in the front, like sometimes I don't know, it just creates this visions like visions, as in like it just creates like some design, and then I'm like, should, like, and then I realize like it's actually a wall, like because it just creates something weird. but I don't know. I just have that experience and I let it be. It gets annoying. I do from inside, and like maybe I look like completely, but inside all these crazy things are happening. So it's not really still. And-
Well,
and-
it's the prize for most improved posture.
no, yeah, but it was good. I think yes, while doing it, I was just doing it. But I think towards the end and at night when I went back home, just to like sleep, I realized that I did certain things in my personal life, like professional and personal, like everything. Like I was thinking about how to. I was getting more stressed when I went, and everything looked slightly simpler. Like I was like, okay, it's not that much. Like one, like I can take care. So I think that maybe it's just change in perspective a little bit. It will again be stressful maybe after 2 days, but
These two guys get the prize for coming the longest distance. Hand it to them. David, give us yours. Testify, testify.
Testify.
Well, okay, you've come with us as far.
We'll share the prize. I can identify with the idea of sitting being a source of stress to me. Went through a long period of feeling that I had to sit for an hour a day. If I didn't, I was not in top form. I'm a therapist, and when I would sit for an hour a day, it was like a therapy radio in the back of my head. I could just sit and ideas would come forth and I'd say them and it would work and it would be good. But if I didn't sit, I'd sit there waiting for the radio to come on, and I'd sit there waiting for the radio to come on, and I'd sit there waiting for the radio to come on. Nothing happened. I'd feel like, oh, I guess I got to do something different because the radio isn't coming on. Had no thoughts. And that led me to feel guilty if I wasn't sitting, like I couldn't do my job if I wasn't sitting, which added stress to the whole picture. If I didn't have time to sit or didn't want to sit, it was an ordeal. I had to let go of that, and I ended up not sitting as much, and eventually wending my way back to sitting that much and being fine with it. It wasn't a matter of feeling guilty if I didn't. Just a matter of it helped. It worked. So I'm glad to be through that. Still, I give myself permission not to sit as long or if at all even. So.
David from comes on, one of my longer term students.
Yes, I've been sitting on and off sporadically, some periods of time longer than others, for about 40 years. And I'm 80 years old, so that's half my life. And I've got a lot more to look back on, I think, than I do to look forward to. And when I look back, my life has been pretty chaotic and a lot of mishmash and inconsistencies and unexpected fits and turns. And sitting has given me some sense of peace is not quite the right word. I guess it's more a matter of something like control in a way that I've always been looking for and never been quite able to find. You mow the lawn keeps growing and gets weedy. Get rid of the weeds and some more weeds come up someplace else. Mm-hmm. So sitting has given me both relief and a challenge intellectually. I know stuff about, it's been written about the everything nothing of Spinsky and Gurdjieff, and a lot's been said about the great matter, and I'm looking to understand the great matter, which really now is more and more clearly about life and death. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not dying, but
oh yes, you are.
Yeah.
Not this week.
You're not alone.
Yeah. My dog, I have to tell you, my dog of 17 years died day before yesterday morning, before David and I headed over here.
That's a tough one. We mourn our dogs more than we mourn people, I think, for good reason.
Yeah, so sitting for me provides some sense of relief and to some extent control over chaos. And so I keep coming back.
Mm. Mhm.
How about Gilji?
Mhm.
Give him the microphone. Thank you for, you're our reporter.
Yeah. And just a comment too, again, thank you for sharing that so much. A lot of us have sacred pets that are become a part of our family and of our lives. So just recognizing that. But again, yes, sacred pets. Yeah, they're like the lifeblood, our lifeblood. But one of the things that you said, and we're sitting here in the midst of the fall, and you said the impermanence too. Like some of the things that we work with when we're younger, there are certain things the body does, and then I remember, I think Mark was talking about one of his teachers broke his foot or something and he couldn't sit in a certain way. And he was judging because he could sit, but he was so used to, sitting in this certain posture and, being perfect, and like even to as time having to even let that go. So it's a shared experience, as we're all, what did you, Sensei, what's your saying? The biggest cost, the greatest cost for death is birth.
Yeah,
That's just, what's your saying?
what do you call it?
The leading cause
The
of,
leading cause of death is birth.
right. So yeah, we're all, nobody knows when, but as our bodies are aging, as the leaves are falling off the trees. I mean, I was out on a trail and it was just amazing how it's constantly showing us that it's never the same. It's constantly changing. So recognize that, but thank you for sharing that. But yeah, your experience.
Another thing, this past week has been chaotic for both of us because of the tropical storm.
Oh yeah, that's
that,
right.
came by and came through just north
Mhm.
of Charleston.
Mhm.
And sitting at home in the dark, power out, and the dog is sick. And I have to go to North Georgia to a festival that turned out to be a bust because it's too windy and cold
Mhm.
to enjoy playing music outdoors, which the festival is about. So it's just been chaos, and I think it's come up for me in a much bigger way in the past 2 weeks
Mhm.
than ever before as a clear issue. It's managing chaos.
Shinzan is a mandolin player, and he plays old style and bluegrass.
Right, and I've been playing upright bass mostly for the past
Upright
7 years.
bass, favorite kind of bass. It's all about the bass.
Mhm.
So Gyoji is our long-term Just It's Saturday guy. And he was Eno for many years. I mean, he took care of the Zindel, and he's always been very conscientious about cleaning it before and after retreats and so on. And so we decided to start in-person retreats again. The simplest thing to do would be to piggyback it on what he was already doing. And so that's the reason we chose the second Saturday weekend. I think it was a good decision because I like the fact that it ends in this sort of social roundtable where it's always going to be relevant. What we were doing on retreat is always going to relate to this discussion. So Gyoji, tell them a little bit about your experience. I think this was the first retreat here that was this long for you, but you just came back from Okamura's place in Bloomington with a longer retreat even.
Yeah, those, I guess, if you look at those retreats, but in Okamura's place, you'd say that was pretty radical. I mean, and I was, pretty scary because those retreats are, each sit is 50 minutes. You start at 4:10 in the morning and you go until 9 o'clock. So 14 50-minute sits, one after another. Of course, there's breaks for breakfast and lunch and dinner. And so it really forced me to grab a hold of Uchiyama's. I was using Uchiyama's book, Opening Hand of Thought, where he tells you to set those thoughts of pain aside and to merge yourself into Zazen. And what Okamura and Hoko teach us, or they tell you before the retreat, there's 4 things that you have to do. One is your posture. Of course, you always aim at the perfect posture, not that you'll ever accomplish it. And Wei Sensei has to straighten me up every time. I certainly haven't made it. To the open the eyes. And Dogen says not too wide, not too narrow. Breathe from the hara or tundon, which is below the navel, and open the hand to thought. And so those were the things. So it's kind of like, someone can tell you something and then you actually have to do it. That's kind of dangerous. And you just really say, okay, that's all you think about. Well, that's what I did, And also he teaches in that section of the book, which has to do with long sessions, is to transcend time, not compare time. So I would always kind of like, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. That's always, I didn't, because a lot of times you say, oh, I think I've been sitting here 10 minutes, maybe it's 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. So I didn't drive myself crazy sitting there, I just would sit there and say, it's just this moment. But just some background, growing up, I think I kind of kept myself in check, in peace through prayer and reading the Bible. Oh no, I get emotional for. So when I walked away from that, it's like I got into mindfulness, a book by Thomas Sterner. And in that book, he said, well, in order to develop good mindfulness, you got to meditate. And so I looked at different types of meditation. I got a book on, I think it was 5 or 10 minute meditation, different types, closing your eyes and just listening to the sound. So basically your object of meditation was sound. Then just basically following your breath. And I think that's how I really got started, following the breath. And there was a group in Alpharetta, which was a Rensai group. And so I wound up initially started sitting with them. And I just thought it was the neatest thing. We were talking about pain. When I finally could sit 20 minutes, I thought that was a big deal. So I'm amazed at anyone who shows up here on a Sunday and tries to sit 3 25-minute sits. I just can't imagine it. But I've always been concerned about the pain, And so I came here and went to 2 sits. And in 2016, when we went on the spring retreat at Watershed, it's when it really sold me. Everybody was really nice. Brian and from Germany. Thomas,
Yeah.
and Sinai. It was just a great group of people. I said, oh, this is home. So this is where I started. And that was a very long retreat. It was multiple days, and we sat all day for several days. And I would say that probably though that I think the following year we did an STO retreat, and you said Buddha, and so we sat 50 minutes at a time.
So he means by Buddha, we had three styles of retreats, pretty much modeled on Okamura's. One called Buddha, one called Dharma, and one called Sangha. The Buddha is the most intense. It's simply focused on sitting like this at Saturday. And that's probably where the idea came from, right?
Well,
and then Dharma is we do more dialogue. It's the way we used to style it anyway. And Sangha was more like we're going to take that as practice, but so we do more work and more training, projects, and that kind of thing. So Buddha is the most intense.
And I will say that from terms of just that Saturday was sitting at Watershed and sitting the longer retreats, right? So if you sit at home an hour or 25 minutes or whatever you sit at home, when you come to a retreat and you sit the long term, it's just something totally different. I can't explain it. You have to experience it for yourself. It's not the same thing. It's just that, 25-minute period at home or however long you sit at home. And especially if it's multiple days, because it builds on each other. And I recall at the STO retreat that time, I just began because the pain intensity really increased. And I said, it's just a thought. And so, just like any other thought. And so I don't know, for some reason, it's just, I became very calm. I wasn't agitated, or it wasn't, oh my gosh, I just settled right into it. And I said, this is just part of it. And so in a way, for me, the pain was basically just saying it's just another thought. And what it's developed or allowed me to do is to, and I would get angry, and my anger would build, and I could see it building, and I could just rage if I wasn't careful. And so one thing that the sitting has allowed me to do is just stop. I can stop and just look at things and stop that kind of transgression of that build of anger. And so that's really helped me. And another thing that's really helped me too is in sitting, we do non-thinking. And this is, like I said, going to Okamuris and going back, and I went back and was rereading through Opening the Hand of Thought. Also, ashes on the Buddha, dumping ashes on the Buddha. I read that, not too long ago. And how thinking, I was like, wow, everybody is pointing at how thinking really gets us in trouble. And so I see a lot of things in my life where I stop thinking, and I'm no longer upset about something. And most of the time, I find we start thinking about something, and we normally think about the worst case scenario, and we just live through this worst case scenario. We get upset about it, but it never occurs. And so it's almost like we're living another life that's not even going to happen. So I think with the sitting of non-thinking, that basically I'm much happier about a lot of things. I don't let my mind wander and race on things. So, and again, that just comes from sitting. And when you come off the cushion, it goes right with you. So.
Speaking of anger, give them a
Yeah. Sensei Ungan. That's what we.
How much time have we got left? I've been sitting a long, long time.
introduction if you hold off for a minute. I'll give you an introduction if you hold off for a minute.
I can't hear you. What are you saying?
I'm down as our practice leader in Jacksonville, and Janice came up, so they get the second charge for long distance. And Ungan has a lot to say. Let's listen up.
Yeah, I retired when I was 55 years old, so I was able to take up Zen seriously at age 55. They say you're not getting old till you start talking about it, so I guess Rick and Hojo and I are starting to get old because we talk about it a little bit. But I'm an 80, but Rick's older than I am, so I got to treat him with a little more respect. I was really macho guy. I've been practicing 3 or 4 months, and I go up to Daibazatso Zendo. It's a monastery up in New York. Talk about pain. The third day, I called the Jikijitsu in, and I said, get me a taxi. My ass is going back to Florida. I never realized what could hurt so badly. But he said, no, it's okay. Here's what you do. Get in a chair. So that's one thing I've really learned about this pain stuff. You don't have to be macho. You don't have to prove you can sit through it. You need to be able to sit through a little bit of it. But if it starts hurting too much, try Cesar, get you a bench. If it hurts more, get in a chair. Don't punish yourself. Just no need to do that. This stuff about the levels of jhana, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the ultimate, I think that's one who has had a real serious philosophical bent and have been up in the mountain cave too long and are trying to analyze all this stuff and write it down to impress somebody. When you get on the mat, that's just you and the mat. There's no books, there's no 8 jhanas or 4 jhanas or whatever. It's just you and your determination to sit. Attention, attention, attention. Restarting over and over again. All of us have the monkey mind. All of us get distracted. you hit the R button and restart and pay attention. Thank you.
Nothing like the southern comfort of Sensei Ungen. Like brings the South in here.
And Joseph has in mind, he gets the prize for the shortest. During the retreat.
Yeah, no, I started.
Something interesting to say.
Yeah, I started feeling not well yesterday. But I can definitely resonate with the pain being an issue in general. But no, I'm not sure I've got a lot to say. I mean, I definitely agree that
That's unusual.
the jhanas are beautiful, like absorptions. But yeah, no, I think we're building the ability to be like resolute, like in ourselves and to be ourselves. I don't know, like that's the stuff I feel like I take away mostly from the practice. And yeah, no, I'm excited that we have so many opportunities to do deep practice and that there is a Zen center. And I feel very grateful that this place even exists.
Yeah, you're having Joshua up there, the rest, he's down Dawson today. He gets some credits.
Not really. It's just over an hour. It's doable. So yes, my name is Josh, Dharma name Doshin. One of the things that I found this weekend, so I work two jobs. One is I run a publishing company. It's a nonprofit, and that takes up most of my nights and mornings, and it doesn't really pay the bills very well. And so I have another job, which is in politics, which is stupidly stressful. And everything is an urgent crisis, and everything is like the biggest thing in the world. And you get to say that because it's politics, right? Like you're literally dealing with some of the biggest issues in the world. And I hate that because I'm very dedicated to my morning meditation practice. And I tell everyone that I know that I do meditation from 7 to 7:30. At 7:30, I'll do like a little sutra service, and like 7:45 usually, I'm at work and I'm ready to go, right? And 7:28 or so every day, the calls start coming in, and I know it. And it's really hard for me in like my daily meditation practice because it feels like as soon as I'm done meditating, I've taken too much time out of my day. Like I need to get to work. I need to start working on all these things that I've got going on. Over the last weekend, I finished my meditation, and then I had another meditation, and then another meditation, and then 5 more meditations. And for me, that was relaxing, I guess. I mean, painful and definitely ADHD. So there were moments when I was like, something has to happen, right? Like, surely, I don't know, someone's going to come in here and start raising hell. I don't know, something interesting has to happen, right? But no, nothing interesting happens. And that's part of the beauty of it, right? Is that you get to just sit. And yeah, that I think being able to meditate and have whole days where I just got to sit with it and kind of let it all soak in has been really exciting. So.
And I'm glad that you brought it up because again, we are lay practice sangha, and two like me, jobs are beasts right now. Just I think any field right now, it's just like if you're working, it just seems like it's chaotic. So the ability to give yourself the gift of being able to just sit is an opportunity, and I want to make sure that that's something that I say that it's a gift, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it, that it keeps on giving. But at the same time, because we're lay practice, I love lay practice for this reason. And, I love the Sangha as the third jewel because it's where all this stuff kind of rubber meets the road. And because I'm always like, and so what? Like, the teachings, like you can have these great teachings, but if you can't really relate to them and figure out how to use them in day to day, what benefit are they? But one of the things that, because I so recognize, like I'm getting off the phone, because the people that I work with, some of them are in Israel and they're 7 hours ahead of us, and they work Sunday through Thursday, and they, Sundays are just, I come back and it's just like they've already started. There's like their full day of emails, but you know what? It's just kind of like the opportunity to be able to have had the space to not react and respond becomes what the the practice is a part of it. Like you keep consistently hearing in people's relation to their living, their day to day, you keep hearing that same thing. Okay, maybe I responded and I didn't react so much to it, and Uncle wasn't cussing people out all of a sudden. He's just kind of figured out. So even though he was trying to get the cab to come and pick him up, but it's those shared experiences that the Sangha practice is so important, because it is, you're making time out. You're telling people, I take 2 or 3 or 7 or 30 days and I'm doing nothing but sitting and looking at the wall, and they're like, what? Like, yeah, until you're actually doing it and understand, you just can't explain it to you. So yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that too. But I mean, this is exactly what it's really all about. It's like that churn. It's like you're turning the heat up in the pressure cooker, and then what happens after that. So this is exactly the kind of stuff that's like the gravy on top of everything else, like the biscuits and everything. So essentially, yeah.
I'd like you to show us, as our newest newcomer, how do you react to all of this?
Well,
Good start.
I guess I'm here at this point mainly because, kind of like you said, I've read about it, listened to podcasts, and there's a certain point at which, okay, I need to actually go somewhere, have a group of people actually kind of help me and tell me, okay, this is what you do and what you not do. Like, oh, you actually might need a cushion so you're not breaking your back. So, but for me, the one thing I have found about it is that it oftentimes ends up like running, or like for me in that you start off, you kind of hate it. And it's like that first 5 minutes, it's like getting up to that point. But then after a certain point, you're just in the zone and you keep going. And so by the time, like for me, it's 30 minutes of cardio, 5 days a week. It's like by the time you get to that 30 minutes, you're like, no, I need more. I need to keep going. Come on, let's go. At least for me. But I will say it is. I will say I do agree with a lot of what people have said, that there is a certain amount of like actual pain that has to be gotten through. I think for a lot of people, myself included, and a lot of that, like you said, I'm sorry, I'm very bad with names, it is a matter of kind of figuring out, okay, how do I do it in the smallest amount of pain? But it's been slowly figuring out exactly what I want to do. Okay, I probably need to use the Cesar bench because I cannot orientate my legs correctly to save my life. It's it is has been a process even getting here. But I have started to notice that it is kind of a glimpse for me when I am sitting of those long-term benefits. I can kind of start to see like, okay, if I give myself enough silence, enough trying to sit and just go with my thoughts, as opposed to daily life where I'm constantly looking at, I'm a student, so I'm looking at, okay, here are all the essays that have to be done. Here are the parts of the essays that have to be done at this time. Here's the times that they have to be done in order to have, and so, whereas like I come here, I can actually sit and let my mind not think about it. It makes it a lot easier and it gives me a glimpse of what it looks like to be in the moment and to kind of appreciate where you are and your surroundings instead of being so stuck in your head. So I guess that's my finding so far. I'll get back with you in 5 years.
Yeah, thank you.
um,
Glad we're 20 or 15.
yeah,
Yeah,
something
just
like
check
that.
in. Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
but
Yeah.
We have
that's
a couple more. Benjamin, give
everything so far.
Benjamin the mic.
Mhm.
Then, Matt gets the prize for not attending.
Didn't even know there was.
Well, I guess nobody's getting out of here alive today. Hojo made sure that everyone gets the mic. I just have I'll just say a couple of things really quickly. This is a bit reductionistic, but to tag back onto the whole neurobiological basis, the way I think of meditation sometimes is that it's a dopamine reset in our daily life. And what I mean by that is that in our daily lives, we're so bombarded with activity, phones, people, sounds, sights, sensations, perceptions, that when you're just sitting and facing a wall, you're taking away a lot of that. And so when you emerge from a sesshin, especially, your baseline for perception is probably a lot lower. So you're going to be more sensitive to all of these things previously. I know I'm a bit of a disembodied voice online. And then the other thing about getting the calls starting at 7:28 when you still have 2 minutes left in your morning sits, one of the things that I really appreciate whenever we have the temple cleaning here on Sundays is that Sensei makes it very clear that the point is not to finish. It's just to do the thing for a set amount of time. And if you're done, you're done. If you're not done, you're not done. And the point, of course, is that as long as we are here sensing, perceiving, living, there's going to be stuff undone. And so I always like to, that's a nice little takeaway for me from these.
Thank you.
First, I just want to say thanks for all these thoughts. I really enjoyed hearing everybody's comments about Sangha and the retreat. I haven't been here in quite a while, so confluence of events. I haven't really been paying attention to the Zendo and just came today, so lucky for me. We don't talk about Stephen King here very much, so I thought I'd bring him into our conversation. I've been reading a book of his called Fairy Tales. You'll see why I'm bringing that up in a minute. I didn't realize until I was getting through it, there was so much in the book about alcoholism that I thought, there's something in this guy's life, and if I ever knew it, I didn't, that he was a pretty raging alcoholic and a narcotic user as well, 30 years or so ago. And so he talks a lot about Alcoholics Anonymous in the book. And as I was driving over here today, I was just thinking about that a little bit. And this is a metaphor. I don't see us as a self-help group. I know that Hojo Sensei would fall out of his chair, but you know, it started making me think, well, so there's Alcoholics Anonymous and there's Narcotics Anonymous. And this is like, for me, this is like Attachment Anonymous. Like I'm addicted to attachment. I just can't get away from it. There's so many aspects of my life that I want this and I don't want that, the aversion, the trying to avoid the pain. And I don't want to sit, but I want to have coffee. I want to read the paper. I want sensation. I don't want to confront my own thoughts. So I think that's the only thing I would add. I did retreat at Watershed a few years ago. So I can relate to the suffering and the difficulties and the challenges. I did not do another retreat since then. I'll tell you something. 30 minutes is great. I don't know about 2 days. Get back there at some point. But yeah, I think for me, a lot of what I do is trying to confront attachment, is trying to recognize where my life is constantly trying to find something and to avoid something. And it's just great to try to be aware of that, because so much of my life, you're just doing it. And coming here is another chance to reset. So thanks, it's been great for me. I really enjoy being part of Sangha for the day. I guess that encourages me to come back next week.
Here is a long-term sewing teacher and probably our most senior female member. And see if she has any pithy comments to make as usual. And she's also here to do sewing this afternoon. So those we've given permission to sew or are in the process of sewing, please meet with her afterwards. We're going to invite everybody who wants to join us in Typhoon for a farewell. Somewhere take a show of hands and we'll let them know. So Adrian, what do you have to say, sweetheart?
My new hip is working better than my old hip, and that's disconcerting.
What? It's a good thing. It didn't pop out or anything.
Having been rescued by the breath in my zazen many times, when the mind goes nuts and then you go, breathe, just breathe. I have attention problems myself, and where that intersects in my everyday life is in doing things wholeheartedly. I don't worry so much about mindfulness, I worry about wholeheartedness. Is do what you're doing while you're doing it. When you're cleaning the bathroom, clean the bathroom. And sewing is very helpful for me for that, because when I sew, and that's it. And that's really the only thing of any intelligence I have to say.
Thank you, Eugene.
Other than in August, one of my dogs died on my birthday, and 2 days later I had to put down my 19-year-old cat. So I am totally with you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which one was it? Which doggy?
Geshe.
That's me, Mike. I have one thing to say about this. So I think the concept of attachment and aversion in Buddhism is a little misunderstood. The attachment is not the problem. It's our opinion of the attachment that is the problem.
So as we circle back around to, again, kind of close things out, thanks everybody for the comments. This is, again, for me, the juiciest part of what we do is to be able to interact and have the discussion about our experiences and, the teachings and what they really mean from a day-to-day perspective. Any last words on the meditation? Again, Sensei Hojo's saying, if you see it, just sit still enough long enough. Always, and somebody had emailed the other day, like, he was like, I'm not sure I can sit still. Is it? I mean, it's totally fine. Like, it's totally fine. But any last comments, Shinjin Sensei, to close things out? Yeah. So just a heads up, Ben Connolly is actually speaking next second Sunday. So I don't know what he's going to be speaking, but our next second community roundup is going to be the second Sunday in December, where we actually talk about wisdom, and it pervades everything that we do. It's not something that you get. Yeah, we have. Yeah, that is November has been, because this is October. This is November has been Connolly. Yeah, we have it. Yeah, he's going to be. Yeah, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've known my guitar for a young guy who's playing some songs. They have what they call a no count. And they, let it drop it, choke on it, through. He hands it back to me, and this is like, so I put it on. I'm stepping up to the mic, and the guitar snaps the head off. Everybody freaks out. I said, that's just a clamping glue job, don't worry. But Ben instantly had detuned his guitar and tuned it up and hands it to me like in 2 seconds. So we went on. Ben, he's also president of the association now.
Yeah, he's going to be on Zoom. Yeah, I think, is he going to be here? Because is he going to have to be physically in Atlanta? I can't remember. I think he's going to be physically here. Yeah. I'll double check because Brian had coordinated that. I'll check because I feel like he's going to actually physically be in Atlanta. Yeah. So if not, it'll be. So we'll double check that. But December we'll round up the Paramitas discussion and then talk about what community practice focus will be for next year. So. as always, there's, oh, do you want any other announcements?
The October 15th SEO conference. If you'd like to join that and consider helping the administration of the larger network by sitting on the board, or sitting on some sessions, see what goes on. We also need some help here. Brian is our chair. If you think you might be interested in joining the ASZC board, there are two different 501c3 corporations. We certainly welcome some fresh blood on that board.
Right. And again, thank you so much for showing up.
I mean blood.
But he's not, yeah, it's not written. He doesn't draw any blood or anything, but yeah, all right. Yeah. But again, as always, thank you for your practice and your presentation motion for the folks that traveled. We're so glad to actually lay an eye and actually be in the room with you that we see online. Yes, even you too, Ungen. We're glad to have you. And
It sounds like you keep calling him Onion.
I said, well, maybe he might be an onion. I don't know. It's Ungen. Yeah. But as always, we could not survive without the support of your physical presence. So if you're already that give, thank you so much. And if not, value giving, value receiving. Again, as always, there are a ton of practice opportunities day and night, weekends, evenings, etc. But we appreciate and so graciously appreciate your practice. So. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. So without further ado, we'll do our bells and then closing chants. Thank you. Yeah, you're good. Good.
3 and a stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do the 4
And then
vows.
perfect. Yes. All right. Things are numberless. I vow
to freedom. Illusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The way is unsurpassable. I vow to enter. Beings are numberless. I vow to freedom. Illusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow the way.